What's up, Corporate Misfits? Welcome to episode 54 of the Corporate Misfit podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Darrington, founder of the Corporate Misfit Club and business strategist for female entrepreneurs who are looking to start, launch, and grow their business. I am so excited about today's Wednesday strategy session. We're chatting with Shelby, who is a multi-passionate young millennial who serves in both the corporate world and in the world of personal development. She's going to be sharing how you can get started with networking and also the networking program that she has that helps women to show up authentically as they are. In her day-to-day job, she is a sales development and training coordinator for Vector Marketing. In this role, she works with Vector's most junior managers and equips them to step into their power as leaders. Outside of her day job, she is the co-host of Wait, Am I an Adult Now? Podcast, which aims to tell the stories of young millennials as they're still being written. In addition to the podcast, she is the recent founder of Naked Networking, a networking event that brings women together and through removing their makeup, effectively removes their mask. Shelby is passionate about female empowerment and building communities of young, ambitious, like-minded women to collaborate and connect. Let's go ahead and dive right in.
You're listening to the Corporate Misfit Podcast with Brittany Darrington, where female entrepreneurs can get powerful tips and advice on how to start, launch, and grow their business.
Shelby, thank you so much for joining me on the Corporate Misfit Podcast. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you so much, Brittany. This is awesome to be on here, and I love what you're doing. I love your mission. So I'm truly honored that you are doing this.
I know that you have Naked Networking, and I'm obsessed with your concept and what you do. Can you share how you got started and what you do currently today?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I do now is I do a lot of different things. I have a corporate position that's 9 to 5. It's my dream job. So I'm super happy there. But outside of that, I have a lot of ambitions. I'm multi-passionate millennial is what I call myself. And I have a couple different businesses that I invest my time in. One of those businesses is Naked Networking. And the tagline is women only, no makeup, no judgment. So basically what this series of events is a experiential naked networking event. So what that means is that women come to the event dressed up or, they're coming from their day jobs. And when they get there, they are brought to one of our makeup removal stations, and they actually remove their makeup right as the event is starting. And so the idea here is that these women are coming and they're removing their mask in order to be able to connect with one another in a really authentic way. And so the reason why I thought up of this was because I actually had the immense privilege to give a TED Talk back in 2016. And the title of the talk is The Masks We Hide Behind. And I talked all about how we as women, through our childhood and through our adolescent teen years, we put these masks on in order to fit into society and to be accepted and to not be judged. And, all of these really negative things, we try to hide ourselves or protect ourselves from that. And so the concept of naked networking came from my TED Talk. And it was so crazy. I was just thinking maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, I'm like, I really want to start some kind of community in Philadelphia for women that is a little bit more than just girls getting together for wine and cheese kind of nights. Because I do that too. I have potlucks every single month for women to come, and it's there's no agenda. It's strictly just bring a bottle of wine, bring some food, let's have some fun. But I wanted to do something a little bit deeper, a little bit more meaning, a little more structure too. So I was thinking about this, and again, it was only about 4 or 5 months ago that this really came into existence. But I was thinking about this, and I'm like, okay, networking. And then my marketing brain went to naked networking. And I'm like, naked networking, that sounds interesting. Naked. Okay, no makeup. And then all of a sudden it just kind of snowballed into this whole concept. And I thought, wow, this sounds like it could have legs. I think the alliteration in itself, naked networking, is interesting. It catches people's eyes. They're like, what exactly is this? And then with our society today being so female empowerment heavy, I thought this could be an idea that is worth exploring. And so I thought of the idea on a Tuesday. This is how my brain works. I was like, all right, let's take action on it. Let's go get it out into the world and see if it's validated out in the world. And so I made a plan on Thursday. I had a day off from work and I was like, all right, I'm going to go to these different boutiques in the city that I know host these kinds of events. And I'm really fortunate that I live in a city that is so open to female empowerment, and there's so many female owned and operated businesses that like to have events like this. So I had a list of places that I wanted to go. And the first place that I went to, I walked in, and it's a boutique that I love. I've shopped there often. And I thought, maybe they'll be interested. I walked in and I presented the idea, and they shut me down so hard. They were like, what? I would never take my makeup off in front of other people. Like, I wouldn't even attend this event. We're not going to host it here. I was like, oh, okay. Cool. Sounds good. So I awkwardly left. And, I was really fortunate that I had two of my friends with me who saw the whole interaction go down. And they're like, Shelby, I could have told you that was going to happen. Like, don't worry about it. Brush it off. And although I was already brushing it off, it was just nice to have my supporters there being like, girl, it's fine. Just keep going. And so we went to the next boutique, and I walked in a little bit more shy than I had the first time because of what had happened. But I was still like, okay, I'm going to do it. I was kind of casually shopping around, like looking at stuff, like getting up the courage to actually present my idea, because I didn't know I was coming in. It was just kind of a like bombarding. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna do this and see what happens. And so I did pick out an item that I wanted to buy, and I went up to the cash register, and I was checking out, and I was just making small talk with the woman behind the register. And there were two voices in my head. One was like, she's not gonna like it. You're gonna get shut down. Like, don't even bother. And the other one was like, no, do it. And I'm so glad that I listened to the stronger voice of do it. And I presented it to this woman named Casey, and she was like, oh my God, I love that. Like, let's make it happen. Can you come back next week for a meeting? We want to do it in June. And it was like at the very end of April at this point. So I'm like, I thought by presenting this, it would come maybe in like September, October, give me some time to iron it out. But no, it all of a sudden just happened. And we had our very first event on June 11th. We sold it out completely. It was wildly successful. And from that, we now have two more events in the calendar. Our next event's August 14th. And, it really grew legs overnight. And it's just been an amazing journey so far, really fueling this business.
I absolutely love this because I was looking at your event. I was checking out, kind of some of the behind the scenes from your past June event. And I was like, I love this concept, this idea. One of the things that I have seen at so many networking events, even some of my own, is that you're right. We come with these masks on, and we are looking to do something to where we are trying to show our made up self, but not our authentic self. How has this event so far, how has that helped others to show up authentically and come as who they are versus who they think you need to be?
Yeah, that's a really great point. And that's one that I definitely thought about when I was preparing the first event. And it made me realize how typically when we go to these networking events, I think a lot of people have anxiety surrounding going to these events because you have to have your elevator pitch prepared. You have to have your business cards in your bag. You have to make sure your breath doesn't stink and make sure that you're all done up and that you don't have sweat stains and like all of these different things. And there's a lot of pressure to be impressive in the first 30 seconds of meeting people. And that can be really scary for a lot of women, especially women who are new to the field of, networking. And so while I hope everyone brushes their teeth before our events, I wanted to create a space where you could have blemishes on your face. You could be a little bit sweaty from walking over here. You could be in your workout clothes, or you could be in your work clothes. It didn't really matter, but the purpose of the event is not to be impressive. It's more so to be a connector and to be authentic and a little bit vulnerable. And, I love makeup. I wear it often. So it's not an event that's against makeup, but the idea of removing the mask is really kind of the pomp and circumstance to the actual deep work that we're doing here. And so the artificial vulnerability that comes in because we create the vulnerability essentially in the beginning by having everybody remove their makeup. And then I think because the event is, somewhat small and everyone there is a little bit vulnerable because we did create that, through making them take their makeup off, it just kind of encourages women to be a little bit more connected to one another, because we're all going through it together. We're all a little bit uncomfortable. We're all a little bit shy. We're all a little bit like, I don't really know if this is my thing. But through that comes so much magic, because there's an immediate connection because we all have that one thing in common, that we're not wearing this makeup.
Wow, Shelby, this is so awesome. And I love that you're doing this. There are so many women who are going through challenges when it comes to networking, whether it be going to network and struggling to kind of build relationships, or not knowing how to really connect authentically with people. What would you say some of the challenges are for professional women looking to network?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges is that we as women oftentimes face the imposter syndrome, right? And so it's so easy for us to walk into a room and immediately feel overwhelmed by intimidation and start questioning, am I even supposed to be here? Why am I here? Are these people going to even want to hear what I have to say? And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we face as a woman, is that the imposter syndrome is common for us. And yes, of course, there are ways to overcome the imposter syndrome, but when you're going into a networking event, professional networking event, it's not naked networking. It's you're supposed to be the best version of yourself. And that can be really intimidating when you're not even that comfortable with that version of yourself just yet. So I do think that's probably the biggest challenge that women face in networking.
I love that you said that, because I agree. Feeling that imposter syndrome is so real. And I love that you're taking your makeup off, because I know for me, whenever I run into someone where I don't have my makeup on, I'm in my, casual gear and all that good stuff, I feel like I'm not trying to, impress you. I'm not trying to do all these extra stuff. I'm just trying to be who I am. And I feel like when you come as who you are, it's allowing you to be able to get to know someone better. And so I love that you mentioned that, because so many of us do have that imposter syndrome. We're afraid that we have to just talk about ourselves, but then we don't feel really worthy or qualified to talk about ourselves like that. So that is so true. What would you say for the people who are introverts when it comes to networking? Because not only is imposter syndrome real, and they might be facing that, but also they have that feeling of, I have social anxiety. I don't want to talk to these people. This is not in my comfort zone. What advice would you give to somebody who is in the introvert stage?
Yeah, great question. I think that most people, when they go to networking events, unless they have been to the same networking event over and over and over again, and they've started to get to know the people, I do believe that most people that go are a little bit uncomfortable. And they might be the most extroverted person in their own community or their friend group or their workplace. But when you take that extrovert out of that environment that they feed off of, and you put them in an environment where they don't know anybody, it can even be difficult for them. So yes, for an introvert, it's even more difficult. But I think the biggest thing to remember is that there are other people in the room who are feeling the same way that you are. Mm-hmm. And it's encouraging to remember how you would feel if someone were to come and approach you and start asking you questions. You'd probably feel really relieved, right? You'd be like, oh, thank God someone's talking to me. I don't have to stand in this corner anymore. So you can find the courage in yourself to actually be that person that goes and relieves somebody else. That's really powerful. And it also expands your capacity as well. So if you're talking about stepping out of your comfort zone, yes, that might be that extra step, but it will, one, take you out of the I'm feeling alone, I'm sitting in the corner, feeling that you're having that really perpetuates the social anxiety that comes with being an introvert. And two, it helps somebody else out who's kind of feeling the exact same way that you're feeling. And three, you just never know who you're going to meet. So I always say, go into these kinds of events with curiosity, not with dread. It might be hard to go from, dreading something to being super excited about it, but you can at least be curious about it. And more so like, I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder who I'm going to meet. I wonder what I'm going to take away from this, as opposed to like, oh my God, just get this over with. I hope they have like a full bottle of wine just for me to get through this, right? So yeah, I think for introverts, it's just remembering that there are other people in the room that feel that way. And if it helps, I would just look for the people that are kind of in the corner who are also acting the way that you are and be like, okay, that's my person. I'm going to go talk to them because they feel me. They get me.
And I love what you said earlier too, when you were talking about going like to stores and checking out boutiques and someone told you no. It's almost like if you can go into some of your networking events where you're okay if like, I might not build the relationship that I thought I might have built with this person, or I might not meet all of these people that I thought I would meet, but going in and being comfortable with, okay, if things don't work out, I'll go on to the next and I'll keep it moving. Just like you did earlier with the boutiques of like, this boutique didn't work out. I'll just go to the next one and keep going until I find one that works. And that's the same thing I feel like almost in networking. Just keep going until you find either a conversation that's worth continuing or, finding a relationship that's worth, really really nurturing outside of the networking event.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I want to make one point on what you just said, Brittany, because it's also important to know that you might go to one networking event and be like, this isn't my jam. This isn't my vibe. These aren't my people. And it's okay to leave, right? You don't have to stay to the end. If you don't feel comfortable and you're like, I'm not going to meet anybody here, I would say have a couple conversations first. So that way you can validate your feelings on that. But it's okay if you don't vibe with the first networking event that you go to or the first organization that you go to. I know for me, in order for me to find the networking events that I really truly love to go to, I had to go to a lot of really awkward, weird, stuffy events that were like so out of alignment for me. So it's okay to kind of jump around and try a bunch of new places and a bunch of new organizations to find the one that really makes you feel comfortable.
I totally agree. And especially as entrepreneurs, sometimes what happens is we think that when we go to a specific event, we have to either find our customers or find somebody we can collaborate with. So we already go in the mindset of, if I don't find this person, this is not a success. But like you mentioned, going and checking out several different organizations. I know I've been to some where they're not a good fit, but I have some that are really great where I've made business besties, I've made collaborations and connections, but ultimately you have to keep trying it. It's almost like dating,
Yeah, it totally is.
Almost like dating. You got to get to know someone, see if you like it. And if it doesn't work, keep going, keep dating, keep moving on,
Absolutely.
So, can you share some ways for women to really be able to develop and build relationships outside of networking? So say if they already go to the networking events and they're meeting people, they're getting to know them and sharing all about what they do and vice versa. What are some ways that women can stay connected and really nurture those relationships outside of those networking events?
Well, social media is the first place I would start because that's really what it's designed to do. It's to help you stay connected with people. And we're so lucky that we're living in a time where there's something like LinkedIn, that the specific reason for LinkedIn is to build your professional network. So I know we have business cards these days, but I think business cards are kind of dying off. I do believe that your social media footprint is more so your calling card than your business card is these days, because business cards are easy to get lost and they don't always have your face on them and they don't really tell the whole story. So I still have business cards because if somebody asks me for one, I like to give it to them. But I also always ask for a connection on social media before I leave the conversation. So it depends on what I'm specifically looking for. So I build an online brand. So for me, my place of heavy connection is Instagram. But for professional women who are seeking to build professional and business-like relationships, LinkedIn is probably the better fit for them. So before you leave the conversation, make sure that you say, hey, let's get connected on LinkedIn. Pull your phone out and say, here, type your name and I'll send you a connection request. And then what I always do, whether it's on Instagram or LinkedIn, is I screenshot the second page that says like connected with, or if I'm on Instagram, it's their page of their profile. That way I can really remember them. And then after the event, I'll go through my screenshots and just make a mental note of who this person is, what do they do, what kind of connections would they be looking for. And then the next day, I'll send them a message on Instagram or LinkedIn saying, hey, it was so great meeting you yesterday. I really enjoyed our conversation. I love checking out your profile. And I usually give them a compliment that's a genuine compliment based on what I see in their profile. And then I follow it up with, this is key. It's only really necessary to follow it up with this one line if you genuinely want to continue building the relationship. But I usually always follow up with, hey, if you're ever in Center City, Philadelphia, I would love to grab a cup of coffee with you and just continue our conversation from yesterday. And that opens the door to saying, hey, let's meet up for 10, 15 minutes on Tuesday morning before we get to work, something like that. So that's really my first and probably my biggest tip in regards to developing the relationship past the networking event stage. The second thing that has been crazy successful for me, and again, it's very specific to what I do because I am building a personal brand. So it's not really about the business connections as it is about just the personal connections that I'm building with friends and followers and all that kind of stuff. But I host once a month potlucks where I bring women together. And again, like I was mentioning before, it's just a place for women to connect with one another. And my North Star, the thing that I kind of use as my driving force for every decision I make in business, is if it's community driven, because that's what I do is I build communities for women. I build them in the corporate workplace. I build them through networking with Naked Networking, and I build them just in my personal life. So for me, beyond just the networking and the business aspect, I've also developed my own personal once a month community event where it's not business, there's no agenda, and it's just a place for women to come together. So that's another suggestion I would make for you if you're someone who's just genuinely looking to network for friends and for normal, like everyday people, because that may be who's your client is. But from a professional standpoint, I would just continue to connect on LinkedIn and ask for the coffee dates.
I love this because first off, so many of us, sometimes we meet a great person and like you said, we get a business card and we totally forget who the business card is for. We're like, wait, who? Wait, what? Yeah. What was that person's name? So I've been there and done that way too many times. And I'm like you, I need visual, I need a photograph, I need something. So being able to ask for that connection right away on your phone is perfect because I feel like business cards are kind of sometimes outdated. So being able to do that right away. I mean, you and I connected via Instagram. And so I always tell people, you can make relationships through social media, whatever platform it is that you use or they use. Like ultimately you can still build relationships and collaborate and meet people and whatnot. Okay, so I have loved our conversation, Shelby. Can you share one piece of advice that you would give to a woman who is looking to get started with networking?
Yes, absolutely. My piece of advice is just to go out and to do it. Just go out and try it out. And, through our entire conversation, Brittany, you've talked about, not being afraid to say hello and not being afraid to, go to a networking event, leave if you have to, but try new things out. But, you don't have to have the confidence first. The confidence comes from doing the thing, right? Confidence is conviction. You can't have conviction over something that you've never, ever done before. So of course you're not going to be confident going into it the first time, but the more you do it, the more you become confident in it. And so really the first step is to just go out and to do it and to try it out. And, social media is amazing, like we were just talking about, in finding events, but you have to use social media to actually do that, because you can be the most connected person in the world, but if you're not actually getting out there and meeting people, then you're really not truly connected. So again, don't hide behind the screen. Get out there in person, meet people, talk, say hello, and crazy things will come from that. Like I promise you, crazy, crazy, crazy things will come to your life because you're taking the chance to just get out there, get out of your comfort zone, doing something you've never done before, and then meeting people in the process.
I love that. And that's so, so true. Shelby, can you share about one of your upcoming events and also how we can stay connected with you?
Absolutely. So my next event is on August 14th. It is going to be held in Center City, Philadelphia. It's on the boat called the Mooshaloo, which is the stationary sailboat right on the Delaware River. It's a really beautiful venue. So that's where our next event is. And then we do have an event coming up in October. We haven't quite nailed down the time of that yet and the date of that yet, but you can find all details about Naked Networking on www.nakednetworkingevents.com. And then in regards to just learning more about me, I'm on Instagram. I'm at Shelby_Wildgust. And Wildgust is a compound word. It's wild gust, like a gust of wind. It's a crazy last name, but it is what it is. And then my personal website is www.shelbywildgust.com. And you can find all things about my female or women in the workplace program, which is another community-oriented program for women climbing the corporate ladder. You can find out about my podcast, which is all about adulting and kind of riding the squiggly line of life. And you can just find out about me in general, what, I'm passionate about, all that good stuff. So that's all, those are all the spaces you can find me.
I love it. And I'm with you. I don't have a difficult last name, but people never know if I'm spelling it with an E, A, or what. So for Darrington, totally get you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I will make sure to leave all of this information in the show notes. And thank you so much again, Shelby, for joining us. We are so grateful to pick your brain about your networking wisdom. And thank you for sharing with us.
If you've enjoyed today's episode of the Corporate Misfit Podcast, we invite you to check out the Corporate Misfit Club. The Corporate Misfit Club is the essential resource for female entrepreneurs who are looking to start or grow a business they actually love. Whether you are a seasoned entrepreneur in your startup phase or simply thinking about taking the leap into entrepreneurship, we've got your back, girl. With our extensive course library, monthly training, exclusive members-only discount perks, and unlimited tools. We also have a supportive community of women where our members share stories, experiences, their wins, and business tips. The Corporate Misfit Club is the perfect place to be to start, launch, or grow a business. So check it out at corporatemisfitclub.com.